Now, we set ourselves up here to be taken advantage of. So we love the trade bellers. Probably even more than the Monday morning ladder predictors, certainly. But we do set ourselves up to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Let me share with you messages across multiple days, okay? Jezza, I work at a fairly well-known cafe where a particular player agent likes my coffee on a regular basis. It's a fairly small cafe, so I can hear enough parts of conversations. This agent has Mitch Lewis in his stable and on his lips with another big Melbourne club. I won't say who, but once they find a coach, I dare say that conversation may run deeper. Watch this space. And then today, I'm a courier driver for a company I won't name for obvious reasons. However, this morning, whilst on delivery to a certain Tullamarine football facility, I noticed a player leaving HQ who I wouldn't normally associate with being there. That player was Mitch Lewis from Hawthorn, Mike and Tullamarine. Now, the log keeps the numbers that come through.
It does.
So I work in a well-known cafe. I'm a courier driver. Is the same number.
Dun, dun, dun.
No.
So
I think Mike from Tullamarine, who's not Mike from Tullamarine at all, is trying to orchestrate his own trade.
So I was keen to have a chat with Mike from Tullamarine, so I called him and he answered fine. Clear as a bell the line was. And I mentioned who I was and the reason for my call, and there was the, hello, beep, beep. So I sent him a message that said, so I was keen to have a chat. I don't know too many cafe working truck drivers. And he said, oh no, we've got a dodgy signal here. We do mobile coffee plus our cafe, which was, I thought, genius.
Trade bellers are my favourite people. I think he then got hold of a burner phone and text through Trade Bell, hearing Mitch Lewis was at Essendon yesterday. Mate reckons he was seen at a cafe nearby, known for being an Essendon player hangout. Now, if all of this ties together, Mike from Tullamarine, you'll actually be invited onto the program. But I think you're taking advantage of our goodwill.
I think he might be. Never mind the fact that Mitch Lewis signed that huge 4-year contract extension in June of this year, Gerard. So it was always said it a bit fanciful. Nevertheless, as we say, cafe sightings forever titillating.
Yes.
But that, a bit of super sleuthing from us. I was quite happy with it.
I love it. Luke Jackson, let's start here, shall we?
Look, West Coast list boss, Rowan O'Brien, he spoke on SENWA this morning to say that his club, Gerard, were genuinely chasing and a genuine contender for the one-away Melbourne ruckman Luke Jackson. He said the Eagles would be putting their best foot forward, did O'Brien, with an air of confidence, in fact, that they could get a deal done. So watch this space. I mean, they've always said they were in the market. They said they could not be ruled out. Now, Fremantle, you would think, logically would be the favourites, only because facilitates the move home, of course, but they are a contender. But if what we read is to be taken at face value and there's no reason to think otherwise, that he just wants to get home, that's the motivation for the player, then Melbourne are just going to go with the highest bidder, surely, in this case. So we'll see what happens with West Coast. They did release a strong statement yesterday, though, regarding Junior Rioli, attributed to their CEO, Trevor Nisbet, saying they were bitterly disappointed and pointing to the fact that they stood so firmly behind Junior Rioli in 2019 when he had that drugs infraction. So it was a really almost borderline angry sort of statement from West Coast.
Clearly anger.
Who don't lose players all that often. So perhaps this is a bit of the chest is puffed out. You know, how dare this happen to us? But Junior had a meeting with the coach, Adam Simpson, yesterday, who actually gave him his best wishes, Gerard, and that while the club didn't want to lose him, Adam told him, he understood the motivation for the move and that there, in fact, was no bad blood. And you go with that blessing to some degree. So I think Junior Rioli leaves, having made a difficult decision, comfortable in the fact that a trade will be facilitated with Port Adelaide, who, upon the launch of AFL Trade Radio today, Gerard, Carl Amon is appearing. So you'd think maybe second-round compensation pick for Carl Amon going to Port Adelaide. Perhaps that gets sent to the Eagles to bring Rioli in. And we did say yesterday they still have that interest in Cozzy Pickett. That's ongoing, but prizing him out of Melbourne going to be obviously immensely difficult in contract.
I think too many people have missed your reporting around Junior Rioli and the family scenario.
Yeah.
It's just been viewed as a mercenary move, which sells him short. And I think West Coast have completely overplayed their hand. It wasn't a humanitarian quest that they went on. He was an asset of theirs that they were desperately keen to keep within footy to become that player. So they had obligations to Rioli that they met, but now they're trying to paint that as something more.
And he would tell you that he loved his life at West Coast. The club itself he had no issue with, but as we've spoken about at length, it's the lifestyle situation, the family situation. Geographically, Adelaide does for him what Perth never could. So there's more to it.
We have multiple sightings of Mitch Lewis in London. So good.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, we have set ourselves
This might
up
be
for
our
this.
new Tom Green. Move over, Tom Green. Here comes Mitchell Lewis. The Demons have raised some interest in fringe Gold Coast forward Josh Corbett, so about potentially acquiring him. Now, Josh Corbett, we mentioned a while back, the fringe Suns forward, 190 centimetres, 90 kilos. Done some nice things in the VFL this year, but out of favour up on the Gold Coast. Brisbane have raised their interest as well, as have Fremantle, but curious to hear that the Demons had touched base a couple of weeks ago as well. We know they've got some forward line issues, so they're in the running there. The Suns are poised to bring in Ben Long, Gerard, who's told St Kilda he wants to be traded up there. They've been in the market for this role, haven't they, Gold Coast? A halfback, Jason Johannesson, they've been in talks with him before that. Dyson Heppel before that. And the Saints are a curious watch as this trade period goes on, Gerard.
So just settle in on the Saints here and give, because we promised Saints people a bit of a picture as to what they might be thinking.
Well, they are at a curious juncture, aren't they? Because we know they've been active in the trade and free agency space at that established player end, if you like, but it hasn't resulted in what they wanted, which was a spike up the ladder and contention status. So missing finals, you're curious to know where they're going to go. Are they going to keep ploughing that path, or are they going to stop, reassess, and take a different direction? It appears as though it's going to be the latter. So there's a real desire here from St Kilda's perspective to get into the draft, to get a greater foothold into the draft. How do they do that? Well, they're going to have to sacrifice a few players, and this is where a number of players have emerged to be on the market. So we mentioned Ben Long then. Hunter Clark, absolutely gettable despite having a year to run on a contract, a high draft pick, a top 10 pick, someone who's been linked with North Melbourne and various other clubs as a player who might have some currency back the other way. Brad Hill, a chance to move to a fourth club. Of course, the Kangaroos have discussed both of those players. So they've been very aggressive in the preliminary rounds of this trade period, as have North Melbourne, we'll get to in a moment. But this is the direction that it would appear that they're going to take with Brett Ratton newly re-signed, a reset of sorts at the
So a
Saints.
scoop into the draft.
I think so, yeah. Which I'm interested to hear what St Kilda supporters think of that. As I say, they've ploughed that path without great success in terms of, becoming a legitimate premiership contender. Now can they sort of reset and then bounce quickly back out the other side if they can get some picks in the door? It's not a spectacular draft you hear, though, this time around. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out for them.
Andy is not overselling his hand here. My source is rated medium level reliability. I like that. Andy. That's good self-reflection. Saints are interested in Ivan Soldo on the back of Paddy Ryder's retirement,
Yes.
most likely involving pick to be used as part of the Hopper-Taranto deal. Jack Graham has interest from Adelaide but wants to stay in Melbourne.
Yes, and Jack Graham did have real interest from Adelaide going back before he re-signed at Richmond Carlton as well. And the Saints need a ruckman. So if it is to be Ivan Soldo, I think that's a good pickup. Lloyd Meeks, the other one, of course, who's going to be in the mix here as well across a number of clubs. But with Paddy Ryder moving on, that's something else they need to address for sure.
You wanted to, or actually, just take this one because this marries up a lot of your work. Can we lock in Braden Fiorini, Bobby Hill, Billy Frampton, and Dan McStay to Collingwood?
Jeepers. Fiorini to Collingwood, I haven't heard. Not to say he won't be on the move, but yeah, Collingwood are going to be busy. Collingwood are going to be really busy. So Billy Frampton, Dan McStay, Bobby Hill. We know that Tom Mitchell actually wants to play for Collingwood as well. So I'm not sure how they're going to facilitate all these moves. Collingwood, Brodie Grundy will get to Melbourne now. I expect that fully to happen once Collingwood season ends. Perhaps that picture becomes a little bit clearer. But this is the Luke Jackson domino falling, of course.
You hinted North Melbourne's aggression in this market.
Yeah, they have been. They've been swinging for a lot in these preliminary rounds of the trade period. So Griffin Logue, a real chance to get there, to be honest, Gerard. Out of contract at Fremantle. Never got during the year the contract that he saw befitting, of his talents and scope and has fallen out of favour or can't fit into that back half. So been swung forward to reasonable effect. The contract offer was slow to come to him. When it did, wasn't quite to the level they'd hoped for. So North Melbourne in for him. Dusty Tucker as well. They did have an interest in Blake Acres, did North Melbourne, but three players from one club to another would be some sort of record. So Carlton in the box seat for Blake Acres. As I mentioned, North have also expressed their interest in Clark, and Hill has been linked. Alistair Clarkson's certainly keen on bringing in as many as 5 or 6 established players from other clubs to supercharge that rejuvenation at North Melbourne. So they've been really aggressive in the space.
Have you heard any of... I just lost the one I was looking at.
While you're looking that up, so I mentioned Collingwood, Tom Mitchell. Caleb Poulter at Collingwood as well. Low-balled, struggling to find a home. Ollie Henry's the other one. Wants to get to Geelong now. The Henry camp is worried about Dan McStay and Hill coming into that forward line. The contract offer from Collingwood didn't wow them anyway, so all signs now point to the Cats, where brother Jack is in his ear, of course, to get him down there. So for the Cats, a pivot of sorts, given they're into Grundy and Hopper, as we know. Tanner Bruin's nominated, and I expect Ollie Henry to do the same.
Sam Flanders to Hawks. That was the one I was looking for. Okay, you heard that?
No, haven't heard that. I just wonder with Gold Coast, we might be something, a club that we revisit perhaps next week around their approach going forward as well, collectively. There might be a bit in that one, and there's a lot of names. We've mentioned a lot of them this morning that we might need to discuss. So we'll do that.
All right, trade bellers, we won't be taken in that easily. If you take advantage of us, we may well be calling you. Mitch Lewis is in Europe. Everyone's sure of it. So we are now specifically wary of cafe working courier drivers. You're on our list.
It's a coffee cart, Gerard.
That's beautiful.